My guest today is Nevo David, who is head of growth at Novu, the open source certification infrastructure for developers. Nevo is responsible for all things growth at Novu and managed to grow the repository from 2,000 to 20,000 GitHub stars in 1 year, using engineering as marketing, growth hacking, and community tactics. Before joining Novu, Nevo founded and exited Nevo.io, a LinkedIn outreach tool. Nevo is a developer by trade and one of the rare exceptions of developers who like to do marketing. Okay, hi Nevo, thanks for joining me today on the show. Maybe to get started, I would be super curious to kind of hear the story how you became a growth marketeer, being a developer by trade.
So happy to be here. Happy to share how I got into this position, basically. So I have worked as a developer for almost like a decade. I was a team leader, full stack developer, and started to go into digital nomading around like 5 years ago. And when I did that, I started to have a lot of free time. And I had this kind of like entrepreneurship thing in me that I wanted to go and build stuff. So I built a bunch of stuff that were not good at first, like every entrepreneur, a lot of mistakes, a lot of problems. But the thing is that I started to see this kind of thing of how to get into product market fit that I didn't even connect it with when I was a developer. I was like, okay, I've just built it and people will come. I will run ads or something like that. It didn't really work, obviously, and I didn't understand why. And after a few projects, I started another project called Nevo, which is a LinkedIn prospecting tool. And I read a lot about marketing. I did every possible marketing out there to get into users, and not only marketing, the traditional of content and ads and things like that, but even growth hacking, like a lot of shorting that you do for a very short time for a bunch of people in order to convert few of them in the end. And I really fell in love with marketing during that time. And then I sold Nevo, and I was in the co-working back there, and I met Tomer and Dima. They're the founder of Novu. And they asked me like, listen, Nevo, it's going pretty well for us. We're just raising money. Would you like to join us to be anything that you want in the company? Anything that you want. So I told them, yeah, sure. But I want to be kind of like a marketing growth hacking guy that I write code, but I also do a lot of marketing. And that's it. I joined Novu. It was very smooth entrance because I was like a developer. So I kind of know the developer mind in a lot of kind of things, which is not an easy mind, by the way. It's not, you can do the traditional marketing you do when you work in or any other niche almost as a B2B. And this is where I came into this whole world, and it was very interesting.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that story. I think that's a very kind of unique perspective that you had there at Novu, because most open source startups that I talk with kind of take a very long-term approach to growth. And also, if you talk to most people, for example, about community building, most will tell you, hey, you do it now to get return from it 2-3 years from now, right? You kind of managed to really systematically create growth for Novu. I mean, you joined at 2,000 GitHub stars, right? And then grew all the way to over 20,000 now in less than a year. So I think, yeah, last year, Novu was probably one of the fastest growing open source startups overall. How did you kind of manage to do that? I mean, I think there's a lot of things that go into that, but yeah, maybe we can just start with a broad overview of how you approached that mission.
Yeah. So, first of all, the question is, what do you want to measure, right? Because we are not making any money. So we kind of figure out, at least this is the first evolution of Novu. We're not doing this thing anymore, but we figure out that stars is a good vanity metric, because we can kind of understand that if we have this amount of star, we will have this amount of forks, we will have this amount of user register to the system, right? Plain simple, not about how much converting or how much will really become active after that, but just like growing that metric itself will impact the entire company. And it's really important that you really work on that vanity metric and not do tricks like to buy stars or something like that, but that will not work. It's not real progress. So it must be something that you do every week, every month in order to grow that metric. And then we started to think like, what is the best way to get the most amount of eyes over Novu? Getting a lot of stars didn't get us a lot of eyes. And this was not our main goal. What we wanted to happen is that every week, every day, whatever, we will be trending on GitHub. Because we realized that every time we are trending on GitHub, we get thousands of stars, of course, a lot of users, really good ones. Some people talk about us in Hacker News, people talk about us over Twitter, and so on. So we wanted to kind of like hack the algorithm of this trending page, because we knew this is where everything is happening. And when we had this idea in mind that we want to be trending on GitHub, we thought, okay, it doesn't matter. We just want to be trending. It doesn't matter what we do. Like, I don't have to go and create content for people about how to use Novu and what Novu is. I don't care about this. I want to be trending on GitHub. I want to bring people there because a lot of people's eyes are going over there. So we started to think like, okay, what can we do to bring a lot of people to do some action? And we started to create a lot of articles over Novu on how to use Novu, not to use Novu, on how to use notifications in general, not only Novu, because we know it's kind of similar to the world. Like if we talk about Twilio, there is some correlation with Novu. If we talk about SendGrid, there is some correlation with Twilio, with Novu. And we started to write a lot of articles, but not only on the Novu blog, because there is no eyes on the Novu blog. There's no traffic going on there. So we had to pick a platform where there's a lot of eyes around it. And what we've done is we started to post on Dev2. But Dev2 was not enough. We knew that in order to bring a lot of people, we need only to be trending, like to get traffic on Dev2. We also need to be trending on Dev2 in order to become trending on GitHub. So we post an article on Dev2, and this article was not self-promotion at all. It would be even sometimes about completely different stuff. And then because it's not self-promotion, you can also use Reddit in the progress because it's not self-promotion. So you can go and publish this article over Reddit. So we told every time I posted, it was like a lunch day. We post it there. We go to Reddit /r/javascript /r/self-hosted. We post links to these specific articles. We get the entire team to also upvote the article on Reddit. We get a lot of traffic on Reddit. From this, a lot of traffic to our Dev2 page. And then after 2 days, we get trending over Dev2. And this happened almost every week. If you go to the top list, in Dev2 there is 2 lists, like the main list and top, you will see Novu at the top. And after 2 days, we usually use some kind of like an influencer. So we use even 1 or 2 influencers at the same time. They would go and say, this is the GitHub. Like sometimes it would be an influencer doing listicles. Sometimes it's an influencer just posting about us. Also, go and give a star to Novu. And that's it. When we became trending. And some month we even became 2 times trending. So this was like one of our main strategies, and it worked really well. It worked well also without influencers. So for people that are listening, they are not funded yet, and they say they can't use influencer and stuff, you can do it without influencers also. We realized the more stars we get, it becomes harder to become trending. So we started to incorporate influencer, but before we didn't use any. So that was a really great trick. It works for us for a very long time. And of course, we had a lot of other tactics that we can touch that we've done.
That's so interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I think there's a lot to unpack here. I think if I kind of visualize your funnel, everything starts with content, right? So what do you kind of think, what kind of content do you have to create to trend first on the platform like Reddit and then later in Dev and so on? So you kind of have this snowball effect of trending on GitHub in the end of the day.
Right. So content for me actually was one of when I just came into the job, it kind of was like really hard for me to understand how do I get content writers or something like that, because I always thought like, wait, they need to be good content writers, but they also need to be good editors. So how do I mix these two together? And also, how do I build like a converting, very good article in the end? And of course, it's like everybody is saying, it's a lot of experiment. There is nothing like you just, I just did it and it worked. But I realized a few things. Somebody can write the content for you of the entire code of how to do something, like how to step after step. And this can be usually very plain and simple. Depends, of course, on the library, depends on what you're doing, right? There's some C++, very deep knowledge. Not every junior can do it. And there is also, like us, Novu, it's like a full stack app that every person can read the docs and kind of start and implement it immediately. So we use some content writers to write for us, for me. And then I edited the complete, they did the source code, they wrote me the entire code. I did like a total overall to see that the code is good and stuff. And then I started to edit the post in order to be more interesting. And this is where marketing comes usually into the picture. It means very converting title. It means very converting subtitles inside. I would always start by making the article something like building X with Y and Z, because we are approaching technical developers. They don't know what is Novu. They don't know what is community, whatever. They want to know how I can build something. I want to build a chat. So I will tell them, building a chat app with WebSockets, for example, or WebSockets and Novu. Something that really intrigued, okay, I want to learn how to build that. I'm a technical developer. You can do like article on how to become the best developer in the world, because it might not work for you, because people want to learn. So that was something, if you go into my dev2 page, dev2/Nevo David, you will see most of them are building something with something. It works great. We had a very, it's like a similar format in most of our article. First, a title, and then a TLDR with some content, a nice meme to trigger the people, look at the meme, maybe laugh, continue reading. After the meme, maybe another section. And after this section, we talk about Novu, continue with the rest of the article, and in the end also with Novu. And we usually ask people, like, what is the most important thing for me in articles is to put the call to action. Like, what is the call to action of this article? And it will always be, give us a star. But I never put multiple call to actions. If you go to many articles, you will not see, give us a star, follow us on Twitter. Here is a Linktree link that you can see all the things that you can. No, it's one call to action. Give us a star. And it's very important because I don't want to split the traffic. I don't want people to confuse and click on other stuff. I wanted everybody to do the same thing. So yeah, I encourage everybody to go into my dev2 page, and you can, after I've done that, after I kind of like nailed this tactic, a lot of people started to copy me, but it still works. So you can also go ahead and look how I write those articles. It can work good for you.
It's super cool that you're still sharing this secret sauce. I will definitely link your dev2 profile so people can go and take a look at the kind of articles that work for you. But just to understand, so you always would publish your content on Dev and not on the Novu blog?
We had both.
Both, okay. What did you post on Reddit? The Dev2 link or the Novu link?
Of course the Dev2, because we don't have any trending platform inside our platform. It gives us nothing to bring people to our platform. We usually did something like this. I usually post the post on our blog on Novu, and then I post the same blog on Dev2 and Medium. And I send a canonical link, which means that the source of this article is on our blog. So we don't have any SEO issues of duplicated content or stuff like that. And then we focused all our effort everywhere on Dev2. Reddit to Dev2, Twitter to Dev2, everything possible to Dev2, just to bring the traffic from every resource that we have. Now you can choose another platform, it really depends what you are building. I guess people that are, dealing with AI, maybe Hugging Face forums is a better place to go. It depends really what your audience is. For example, Dev2 known to be a very JavaScripty kind of a website. So it really depends on what is your library on. What I also suggest people to do is, I also wrote a tweet about that, is that we need to kind of like think about you need to think about your library in terms of the sophistication of the library. So Novu's sophistication of library is very low. It means that every almost junior can kind of look at it, find something related to them. They can start even if they don't use it. But if you go into something more deep, like if we were a kind of like a database built with Rust, okay, like I saw other people do, it becomes harder because we don't have all these levels of super juniors, seniors, enterprise. We lose this junior part. And this junior part is one of the biggest way for us to grow because, they might not pay us. They're a big part of our community, but they are everywhere and they promote the product like crazy. So what I would suggest people to do usually is to find a way to dumb it down to juniors. Maybe create another library that wraps the library with JavaScript and, so other people can use it. But something that that you can bring almost every type of audience. That's very important. If not, and I met people like that they are like some kind of like only C++ library, it will be very hard to promote if you're not Apple or something like that, if you're just starting from zero.
I mean, you said before that you really just focus on growing stars, and that you think that even though it is a vanity metric, it kind of makes sense to focus on it. Do you think there's also a risk in kind of focusing on stars and therefore focusing more on junior dev and therefore focusing more on really like, let's say, traffic, I don't know, for the health of the project, that you end up having a really big Stargazer base, but maybe those people don't even fit the ICP of Novu.
Right. So a few things. First of all, we need to look also at the company evolution, right? Like today, we're not focusing on stars anymore. We got like 20K stars. This is not our main focus anymore. It gives us a lot of credibility, already a lot of users, but it's not our main thing. And I think it's kind of like that with every other library. So vanity metric is stars. Yes, we've seen that every time the stars is growing, you can look at the other metrics and it automatically grows with it. So if we wanted more developers, if we wanted more forks, cloud users even, the stars were it. We saw the correlation. We check how many stars we got every week. We check the amount of users and we can see. And we can even see that when we are trending on GitHub, there's a lot more people are coming and registering to the system. Like remember, the stars is like an aim, right? It's like a metric. We say, okay, this queue, we want to have 7,000 stars. We want to have 13,000 stars. It was just the metric we are aiming for. But in the end, the strategy was to get to be trending on GitHub. That's what bring like most of the developer forks and everything.
Maybe let's talk about influencers, because you also briefly mentioned that you, after some time, started using influencers to become trending again. How did you kind of find those influencers and how did that whole partnership work?
So before we even start, let me tell you something about influencers. Influencers, they hold a lot of traffic. This traffic as itself is useless. They have mostly the most junior people in their followers. Mostly we will not convert anybody, not even to a cloud, let's say a small user, okay? Most likely, maybe some people will register, but the conversion is very low there. So when we use influencer, we know one thing. We use influencer to get trending over GitHub. We want them to give us a star or bring us the traffic. We already know that they will not give us anything else except for that. What happened, I think, it's like some kind of evolution. I didn't do anything. I had one influencer reach out to us and said, listen, I'm going to do it for free for you. It was not even a part of our strategy. His name is Pratham. He's a big, he has a lot of followers, at least on Twitter. And he just put Novu out there and we got trending only from him putting the tweet. Back then, the algorithm was a little bit different, by the way. If he did it today, it would not work again. So he put it like that. We got so many stars just from tweeting. I can tell you that I got a lot of members from that. And when we got trending, that's when they came. But it really worked like that. So I started to collaborate with him, and we also had one influencer that we used before, Eddie from Eddie Hub. So we also used him before. But same things, their audience, you can see also by their tweets, the way they write stuff it's a very junior community. It's not like, we also got one time trending. This is not our influencer, I wish, but from Guillermo from Vercel. He tweeted about Novu also. So yeah, this is like a persona that a lot of senior developers follow. It's very technical persona. So it's really different. But I do suggest using them. What you need to know is that the more you use them, it becomes less and less effective because, they have a finite amount of followers. And once you put, they put you some tweets and people going and interact with these tweets or something, the second one you see already there is less, and then the third one less, and so on. So it's not something that you can keep on doing all the time.
And what would you pay on average for such an influencer partnership? Can you share something there?
So, it really depends what you can negotiate. Really depends on the influencer also. So there is a range of prices. I talked with influencers before. They offered, I think, something like less than $200 for tweet. And I talked to even, I can say, same amount of followers, but from a more, not a developed country, like a more, like in Europe. And it got into like around $500 per tweet. So it's really like a big range of how much you can expect. And you need to play with it, because, some influencer, they have a lot of followers from this country and some from this country. So you might want to pick a few and not to stay with the same one all the time.
Okay. I think I now kind of understood how you drove all the traffic and attention to your repository. My next kind of question would be, how did you convert the traffic into stars? Because obviously it's like one thing to get people there, it's another one to get them to star the repository. What do you think kind of led to that conversion?
Okay, so first of all, let's talk, because I think this is like a lot of people say that, it's like a strategy, but it's not, it's actual tactic. The first thing you need to do before you even do anything, and this is like your landing page for everything, is your README file. It's the most important thing because in the end, it doesn't matter. You put a call to action here or there, people will arrive at your README MD file. And this README MD file must be super understandable with no kind of, cliche. We are doing, I saw one library, they said, we are doing like that, which is like that. Like they took one company, combining it with this company, they're doing this kind of like this company. And okay, it's a really nice kind of like title of the one-liner, but I didn't understand what it is. And if I lose this 10 seconds of what we are actually doing, I need to be very motivated to keep on reading. So people think a lot of time, one line. Okay, don't write one line, write few lines. Describe good what you're doing in the first lines that on your README file, so I can understand. You want to explain it to me like I'm a baby, okay? Don't explain it to me like I'm a very sophisticated persona, so I can understand. I think this is the most important before anything do you even do, because you will just waste a lot of traffic if you don't perfect this README file. We did something actually that in order to bring the traffic that it might not be conventional. We did a lot of not conventional thing, but we didn't tell people like go and star us. No, we just kind of like almost begging for people to star us. Like we put a lot of memes of cats for people to come and help us and star our repository, like please help us and things like that. It's actually working very good with the developer persona. It might not work the best if you're going like B2B, we are the best, we are better, we are stronger, but with the developer persona it's kind of great. So most of our article were actually asking very, very, very nice for people to give us a star, and it worked. It worked pretty good. And I actually even measured this. I put different types of GIFs together with this call to action on different articles, and I measured which one converted the best. And it's kind of funny to say this, but it was one meme of cat that converted best than all the other all the other memes. I know this takes some time, right? It can take some time to master this, but it doesn't mean that the one that converted less didn't convert. It's also converted and also make us trending. But playing with a call to action is important.
Can you share that cat meme with me after the recording?
Yeah. And
Is it too secret?
No, I can share with you. You can put it in all the other articles. I'm sure there's other cat memes that can work because we didn't always put cat meme, right? We had also a woman say, please help, with a glass. We had a lot. The cat specifically worked better. And we even try sometime to make it even more official. I even try to attract people's eyes. I put like a picture of help us with a star, like a very graphical one. And it didn't convert as well as the meme of the cat. So it's just something you need to try, but this is only after like you perfect it more and more. But even if you don't do it like amazingly like that, you can still grab a lot of attention. And not only that, I see some people are struggling getting like this 100, 200 stars. I had my startup and I made it open source, Linvo. Only the part of the scraping, I made the entire thing open source. And I did this entire thing with a call to action and everything. And one time, and I got trending and I got 500 stars on the first day. So you don't have, it's not, if you followed like this method, I mean, if everybody will follow in the end, then maybe it will not work, because tactics, they tend not to work after a very long time. But if you follow this kind of thing and you bring also value in your article and everything you do, it will work for you.
Yeah, I think there was this question from the community, right? How you would kind of go from 0 to 2,000 stars if you would have to start all over again. Would you say that this would have any limitation to you? Do you think that, for example, that it is harder to get GitHub stars in the beginning, when you don't have the social proof yet? It's easier.
It's easier. I mean, not to get 10,000, okay, but to get the first 500, it's even easier. And I'll tell you why. Think about us. We put Novu on Dev2 a lot. So people already saw our faces. We already used a lot of the traffic of Novu that people are going to Dev2. So we get less and less people seeing the article, less and less people taking an action, even from the second article. But the first article, nobody knows you, is the opportunity for getting the most amount of traffic, actually. And everybody knows this in everything. Like your first launch, and people are also doing like this, your first launch of the product is like the most important one, and you put the most amount of effort because you can have the most amount of growth compared to the second one. So actually, the first time you do it, you have a lot higher chances because you can also, you don't have to be very technical. You can talk about the why, because the first article usually people do. And this is what Novu did, by the way. Novu was not like that when they just started. It was like a very non-stateless library of just doing stuff. There was no control panel or anything, but they just shared their vision in the first post. So today, if they share the vision, it will not work again. But they just share the vision. They show a small UML and send a link to the GitHub. It worked because people are just exposed to something new, and there is a lot of traffic. The most important thing to do is like, in every algorithm, it's the same with Twitter, the same with LinkedIn. You have this kind of like few minutes before you post, the few minutes after you post, sorry. Because if you lose that, the platform will not promote you. So it's very, very important that when you just release, go to all your friends, send them a link to like your post on Dev2. Post it over Twitter. If you have a company page, on a company page. If you have a friend, like your personal one, post it on your personal one to this Dev2 post. If you go to Reddit immediately and post it there to get the traffic, because the first few minutes, it's like the most important one. And this is what worked for me usually, because if I get that traffic, and use your friends, use your family. And I saw people doing it not in the Reddit area. Like I have a friend, he wanted to promote something even over LinkedIn. But he went on WhatsApp and sent to all his friends, can you please give me a like here? And he gave and posted on every possible channel and send everybody to one single place. And it worked. So this is like my main thing for you. Like we thought about like which platform because if we could get trending on Twitter or LinkedIn, that might even be better than Dev2, because there's the exposure for views can grow much higher. But on Dev2 is easier. You need less traffic to become trending there. So we kind of like, okay, post and bring everything that we can. And it worked.
So you would almost say this is kind of a universal um, way to think about growth, right? Just to think about, hey, where's my audience hanging out? Where could I, where's like kind of a trending page? And then how can I funnel traffic there?
You need a platform that can reward you for bringing traffic, and even if it's not a lot, because in Dev2 you can, it's rewarding you very easy. But if you post something on Twitter or LinkedIn, if you don't have a massive amount of followers, then it might not work for you. I'll give you an example. I have only 500 and something people on my Twitter. So, it's not as easy to grow my Twitter list as I grow article on Dev2. So, and by the way, on Dev2, I have a lot of followers. I wish I could do something with this, but I have almost 2,000 followers on Dev2, but there's not a lot you can do with that.
I think we touched a lot of topics now. Maybe to wrap things up, what would be kind of the top 3 things you would recommend any open source founder to try out now to grow their GitHub repository?
First of all, remember that there is a very big gap between marketing and what you do. It's very important to understand that if you build something, people will not come if you don't be able to find a way to bring them. It's not like a magic that people find you. So you need to disconnect yourself for a moment from this state of mind of like, I'm a technical and this is very technical library, then we get the most technical people. This is what we said in Novu from day one. Marketing and engineering goes together. We're not waiting. We're not doing anything else. We don't have a lot. So disconnect you from 1 second that you're a tech, because I believe most of the people that will hear that, they're very technical. They know how to build stuff. They don't know how to promote it. So this, the first thing, like disconnect yourself and think as a marketeer. What can I do in order for people to understand how to use what I'm doing and how to bring the traffic? This is the first most important thing. And a lot of people understand it. I didn't understand it in my first startup. I thought in my first startup, okay, I'll just build it like 3 or 4 months, and then I'll just run ads and, I'll just play with it, increase the budget, people will convert, people will buy, and so on. It worked. The world doesn't work like that. So this is the most important thing. You need to disconnect yourself from being the technical persona. And then the second thing is you have to work on your README file and your documentation, because it doesn't matter how much traffic you can bring or which strategy you use. We didn't touch all the strategy that we are using, right? We have a lot of growth strategy that are going beyond, such as engineering is marketing. It doesn't matter which strategy you use. In the end, everybody will go to a single page, your GitHub library. This is where everybody will go in the end. So it's very important to perfect this README file that even a baby can read it. And if this is a very sophisticated library, and I know it's not always possible, but you should do it. You should dumb it down for juniors also, because junior is the key to progress in the levels between juniors, seniors, and enterprises. So try maybe to create another, like if it's a database, okay, let's create a JavaScript library, also open source, that know how to use this database and how to, and not only the actual database code of, the C++ code of changing the database. It's not even your audience in the end, but you can create a, like a JavaScript kind of library that uses this database and persist to it and select from it and so on. And this is like very important to keep in mind before you do any marketing. And the third one is, don't always think in like when you start, and everybody will tell you this in every startup, don't work long term. Always work short term and very niche audience. We have done this 1,000 views every day. Like here we have 1,000, and we're not scaling it. We're not thinking like, I saw somebody wrote, let's run meta ads. No ads. We never run even one ad since we started. We just focus on small chunk of users and being more and more and more of this small chunk of users. I think we are very big, and we can start to talk about bigger chunk of users and very long-term strategy. We did this kind of growth hacking every week. We were like some kind of like a sprint. There is like these 4 days that we have to get trending. We never stop. So it's very important to think like, okay, I have these 4 days. What can I do in these 4 days that will get the most amount of eyes to my libraries? I post on Dev2. Okay. I send to my parents this Dev2. Okay. Whatever I can. to bring this traffic. And not to, I had another company called Nevo. And I can tell you that there was like was a time that I was developing a lot. And then I stopped developing and I started to focus on, just because I was a single founder, I stopped developing and I started to work on the library in marketing. And I think I didn't develop anything for like 3, 4, 5 months. And I just focused on marketing and I saw growth. I got more user in these 3, 4 months and nothing changed in the actual code. Nothing changed in the actual library. The only thing that changed is my marketing. So for founders, I think that their library maybe is not good enough because it's not promoting. It's not. It's because you just need to have sometimes like better marketing and work on it a little bit. Like put some more effort. If something is not working in the first day, okay, that's okay. We're not building something for one day. We're building something for a very long term. Also in Novu. And real thing, like I can bring a lot of user in one time. I didn't build a brand. Brand is something that takes time to build, but when you have it, everybody say about this, when you have the brand, then of course everything is a lot easier. So just don't give up. You don't get the stars, think about what else you can do, and stop developing. It's okay, you can rest for a little bit, stop developing and work on the marketing. Nothing will change. Nobody is even using your library right now anyway, because you don't have a lot of traffic. So that's okay, take a break and start to work on marketing.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think it was super helpful for everyone who's basically like looking into growing a GitHub repository. How can people, where can people find you if they want to follow you or if they want to reach out to you? What would be the best way?
Of course, they can follow me on Twitter. If somebody is serious and not just, I think I want. If somebody is serious about promoting their GitHub library and they want some special, to ask me question, they can go to my github20k.com website. There is a link there for a meeting. They can just schedule me. It's free, basically. But I don't, but only if you're really planning on doing with it something. So feel free to go and schedule with me. I'm happy to answer everybody's question. And in my email, nevo@novu.co. I'm also very active on Discord, everywhere, basically.
Cool. Yeah, we'll link all those resources in the show notes so people can reach out to you easily. And yeah, again, thank you so much for joining me and enjoy your evening.
You too. Thank you for having me.